Alright, what's going on today, YouTube? Welcome back to your favorite cyclist YouTube channel. This week, we're going to be shortening the bars on my Poseidon Norton and showing you how to do it yourself. But before we get into today's video, if you are new to my channel, make sure you head down below, hit that subscribe button for me. If you already are subscribed, make sure you hit that bell icon right next to that. That way you get notified every time I upload. That way you don't miss any of this awesome cycling content on this channel. So like I said, today we got the Poseidon Norton behind me and we're going to be shortening up these bars here. So the Poseidon Norton, the bars that come with it originally are a 31.8mm clamp diameter and they are 780mm wide. So it's going to be width essentially from bar end to bar end. Now I went ahead and I upgraded those bars and went ahead to a 35mm clamp diameter bar, a little bit stiffer of a bar. I like the feel of it. So we went for those, went for the race face turbines here, and I went with those in an 800mm. That's a little bit wider than I normally go on my bars, but I wanted to try out 800mm to see how it felt. And ultimately I don't like it. I don't like 800mm. We're gonna cut them down, back down to 780, which is where I like them. And that's where I've had my bikes at. If we look at my Superfly, that has 780mm bars on it. And we look at like my fat bike is 760. So I kinda like the 760 to 780 range. Those feel a little bit better. The 800 feels a little too wide for this type of riding, and even just for me, I'm kind of a broad shoulders guy, and the 800mm feels a little bit big. So let's talk about bar width for a second. So bar width, there are all sorts of bar widths you can get. So bar width, essentially like I said, it's going to be pretty much from one end of your bars right there all the way to the other end, and that's going to give you your width of the full bars. So in this case, 80cm, 800mm. So if you're going to be cutting your bars and you want to know how long things are, you can do it with just a regular tape measure if you want to. If your tape measure doesn't have metric on it, it's going to be something that's going to become beneficial for bikes. That's why I have this little guy that does up to 2 meters. So that'll be, what is that going to be? That's 2,000mm. So that's going to be perfect for bikes for the most part. So I got this little guy. It has a metric on the bottom, so you're able to tell metric measurements on there as well. It's going to read in centimeters most of the time. Use add a 0 and that's going to give you your millimeter measurement. So generally with bars, 800mm is going to be kind of the top of it. There are some that are wider. 800 is going to be about the top, 800mm wide. Now of course you can get them down tiny bars. Tiny bars, fixie guys use tiny bars. There's going to be small bars out there. That's just the case they're going to be. If you're looking to like road bars generally are like 40cm wide, it's a 400mm. So about half what this is going to be a kind of a standard road cycling bar, drop bar. So it's just going to depend on a lot of things. It's really going to depend on where you're riding, because you want to make sure it's comfortable for where you are and you're actually able to squeeze through. If you have lots of trees, there's things there, you want to make sure you can squeeze through those trees and get to where you need to go, of course. Number two, it's going to depend on how wide your shoulders are. It's going to be another big factor. The wider the shoulders, generally the wider the bars you can go with, because your arms are kind of placed out a little bit more already. So that's going to be another factor for you as well. So there's going to be a few things there, and then of course comfort is going to be the most important one. I made a video a long time ago when I first upgraded the bars on the Superfly. And I changed from, I think it was like a 700mm bar to a 760mm bar, and it made a huge difference in the way that bike handled and rode, and it rode so much more confidently. And I said, yeah, wider bars are going to make a big difference. Well, here we are in the future, a few years down the road, and there is such a thing as too wide of a bar, and it's just going to depend on you as a person. Luckily for us, bar manufacturers make it really easy for us to just trim down the bars by a certain amount to get it to the width we want. So let's go ahead, we'll pull the grips off of this bike. Let's get you guys a little bit closer. We'll get the grips off, and I'll show you guys that there are markings on there most of the time to help you narrow them up, and I'll show you guys how to do it if there are no markings at all. So let's get a little closer to the bike, start cutting these bars up. Alright, so we're up at the bars. So in my case, we're going to take off our lock-on grips. They're a 3mm on the clamp bolt. So just going to loosen those up. Get this guy over here, loosen this one up too. Grab our other guy here, so I'm just going to kind of rotate him in. Let's pop that guy out. So there's my toolkit on one side, tubeless repair kit on the other. There it goes, and 2 grip. So with our grips off of the bar, you can actually see, I left some stuff behind, you can actually see little markings on the end of our bar there, little lines. So, like I said, these bars are 800mm bars. If you didn't know that, you can actually go ahead, grab your tape measure like I said, we can go ahead, pop it on one end of the bars, pull it to the other end. Like you can see right there, we're right at 80cm, which is 800mm. So like I said, there's already cut marks on these for us. So in this case, there is a 790, 780, 770, and a 760, and those marks are going to be the same on the other side as well. So 790, 780, 770, 760. So those marks are already going to be on the bars. Now if you don't have those marks on your bars, pretty simple. Like I said, you can measure across the whole bars, get your full width, and then you can kind of cut them down however much you want from there. So like I said, this time we're going to go to 780. That's what I run on the rest of my bikes. It's kind of what I like the feel of. So we're going to go all the way to 780 this time. So in this case, you can stick your, you can stick your tape measure up to them, pull it tight, and you can see that is 10 millimeters right there. Perfect. So 10 millimeters on that side, and on this side should be line up on the 10 millimeters as well. So you can measure in on the bars itself with the tape measure, kind of get the width you want. So if you know your full width, you want the bars to be equal on both sides, so you want to take the same off of each side. So in my case, we're taking 10 off of here, 10 off of here to get a total bar width of 780 millimeters. So pretty simple, pretty easy. Most bars are going to have it on here. Some steel bars are going to have it like engraved in there, so you should be able to see that pretty easily. Alloy bars, carbon bars should all have this on there, as long as it's not rubbed off. As you can tell, these bars haven't really even been on here very long, and I've already got some coming off a little bit. So sometimes it stays, sometimes it doesn't, but you can still measure it yourself just with a regular old tape measure. So let's go ahead, let's start cutting these bars. So in my case, these are alloy bars. So aluminum bars, no big deal at all. If you have carbon bars, you're gonna have to do this differently. So with an alloy bar, you could either use a pipe cutter like what I have here, which is gonna be what we're gonna do here. That's gonna help me keep me from having to take the bars off my bike. I just want to keep the bars on the bike. It's gonna make a solid straight cut, and it's gonna work fine. It's gonna be able to leave the bars on the bike, get me the cut I want, and I'll be able to slap it back together in a really quick amount of time. Now, if you want to do this different way, or you have carbon bars, you cannot use this if you have carbon bars. It's going to smush the carbon, and it's not going to cut it very well. It's not going to cut it at all, honestly, and it's only going to weaken the carbon. So you're not going to use a pipe cutter, so you're going to need to take your bars out, and you're going to need to actually cut this with pretty much a hacksaw blade. So you're going to have to cut through your bars. That way, use a saw guide, because carbon bars are expensive. You want to make sure you cut those at the proper spot and a straight cut, because bars are kind of important. You have bar ends and everything that needs to go on the end. You get it kind of wonky, everything's not going to end up right at the end. So we're going to go ahead and use a pipe cutter today, just because that's going to be the easiest way that you can go. In my case, I got it like Home Depot. You can get them anywhere. Pipe cutters are ultimately pretty inexpensive. We're going to go ahead, we're going to slip this guy on, and so this side is our cutting blade right here. So we're going to line that up with our 780 millimeter spot. There's 780, and we're just going to tighten this up a little bit so it doesn't move. All right, once we got our 780 mark, with a pipe cutter, you just go ahead and you're just going to spin it around, make sure that is lined up. Now looks straight to me, and then each time around you're just going to go ahead and give it a little bit of a turn on there as well. That way you're slowly cutting through this pipe. You don't want to yeet it all in, otherwise you're going to really kill the blade on here, or you mess up your bars. So we're fairly slowly going to go through, and as you can see, it's slowly cutting through the bars right there. You can see that silver line going around right on the 780 mark, working just like we want it to. There we go. Let's go ahead and give us another little quarter turn. And we just want to go ahead and just keep spinning through. You can hear it start to crack. I can actually see it popping through on the inside, which is exactly what we want. And there we go. Perfect cut on the end of the bars. Perfect. Look at that. Shiny, shiny, shiny. And the other end, this old piece, you can just chuck off. In my case, I have this little reamer here. I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of make sure our end is nice and clean. Nice and clean on the end. Nice and smooth on the inside. Now we're going to go ahead and grab my little file here, and we're just going to kind of just file off the end. Just get rid of any little sharp edges on here. I really need to get a bigger file. That is one side cut, ready to go. We're going to go ahead and grab our grip right here. Just going to go ahead and we'll just slap that guy on there. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to need to move this stuff in a little bit because we just cut off some length, obviously. We got that guy. We'll throw our toolkit back in the end. All right, we got one side done. Just got to do the same for the other side. So I'll show you guys a different little angle there. All right, give it a quick little spin. Make sure we're looking nice and solid right on the mark, and we definitely are. Give it a little bit of a turn, and we'll just keep on going nice, round and round and around. We should start to hear a little bit of cracking as it cuts through here. Yep, and then there we go. So if you look on the inside, you can see it's starting to cut through. Oh, come on. There it goes. All right. There's our nice, clean cut. Right there, nice and even, nice and round. Grab our little reamer. We're just going to ream out, pretty much just getting any of the little burrs on the inside of here. And really the big reason I'm doing this is because I have those tools in my bar. And so I need it to be nice and smooth here. And the same deal, let's go ahead and we'll just slap our grip on here. Grab our tubeless kit. Go ahead and we'll just pop that guy right on in there. Move our grip back just a hair. Alright, there we go. So there's that. We need to go ahead and move our controls in on the bars a little bit. But that's how we go ahead and cut our bars down to the length we want them to be at. Alright, so that's how we go ahead and you trim down your bars, get them to the width you want them to be in. Get two little tokens off your bars right here. Two 10mm tokens off the end of your bars. So obviously it shouldn't really need to be said, but obviously once you cut, you can't put these back on. So you need to make sure you know how wide you want them to be. It's kind of a commitment here. Once you cut that end off, you can't go back. So you can always start bigger. These ones have marks every 5mm. So if you want to do 790 instead of 800, you can do 790. You can do 780. I recommend going smaller versus bigger. In my case, I've been riding bars long enough to know I like the 780s. Feel pretty good for me, so we went with 780s in this case, and it came out perfect. If I go ahead and tape measure up to this, 78 centimeters, dead on. So it ran out perfectly. It's always good to double check the marks, so I double checked them, made sure we were good, and came out great. So this is exactly what I want. Should feel great on the bike with a little bit narrower bars. You'd be surprised at how much of a difference 10mm on each side actually makes. 10mm really isn't that much. 10mm is that much right there. That's 10mm on each side. You'd be surprised how much of a difference it makes, not only in controlling the bike and feeling more comfortable and being able to get through areas that you weren't able to get through before. 800mm, I couldn't get through the door or the gate at my daughter's school without turning the handlebars sideways. The A780s will fit right through, no problem, straight on. Kind of interesting. Just 10mm on each side. So if you guys are interested in any of the tools I used today, I'm going to have a link in the description down below so you can pick them up for yourselves and get your bars to the right size you want them to be. It's a pretty simple process, something you do in your garage in a few minutes and be able to feel a little more comfortable on your bike potentially. If you guys enjoyed the video or at least learned something today, give this video a big thumbs up. Appreciate the support. Any comments or questions, let me know down in the comment section below. Love talking to you guys, love answering any questions you guys have, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching today.